Gravity Falls is one of the most well-known, respected, and beloved not just cartoons, but entertainment properties in history. The world is filled to the rim with well-developed characters, lore, oh my god, the lore, and one of the most iconic big bads in cartoon history. Welcome to my toxic wasteland. I'm the leader around here, Toxic Kiefer. Welcome to Gravity Falls, a retrospective of mystery and brilliance. So, how's this retrospective gonna work? I will go over every episode of Gravity Falls and go into the characters, the relationships, and the story and the lore of the mysterious place called Gravity Falls. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 1, Tourist Trapped. Well, here we are, the pilot of the show, the beginning of the mayhem, chaos, mystery, and good times. In terms of pilot, this is a great one, with a very well done introduction to most of the characters in the show. It sets up the dynamics of the friends and the family in a good way. The actual episode is about Dipper and Mabel, a pair of twins arriving to their Grunkle Stan's mystery shack to spend the summer vacation in Gravity Falls. While in the woods doing a job for the mystery shack, Dipper finds a fake tree and pulls a lever, unveiling a hole in the ground. In the ground, he finds a red journal with a 6-fingered handprint and a number 3 written in the middle. Mabel starts dating what she thinks is a normal man and hopes it's a vampire, but Dipper thinks it's a zombie and sets out to prove himself right. Mabel's boyfriend is named Norman, and he isn't acting very human. He's incredibly clumsy, and his speech patterns are far from your typical apparent teenager. Dipper decides to follow Mabel and Norman on their date to collect video evidence of him being a zombie, but doesn't see any proof and goes home defeated. While reviewing the footage, he sees something that he missed. Norman's hand falls off and he has to reattach it. Dipper rushes to a golf cart to save Mabel. He gets the keys from Wendy, and Seuss gives him a baseball bat to fight off the zombies, and a shovel in case he sees a pinata. While on the date, Mabel's boyfriend has a secret to confess and reveals, dun dun dun, he's a bunch of gnomes stacked on top of each other. Talk about a wild card. When Mabel rejects their offer to become the Gnome Queen, she gets kidnapped and taken to the Gnome Kingdom. Dipper arrives and the twins fight off the gnomes. The twins try to get away in the golf cart when the king of the gnomes, Jeff, assembles the gnome army into a giant kaiju gnome to chase the Pine twins in the golf cart. The gnome kaiju shoots gnomes at the golf cart, which Mabel and Dipper have to fend off until a tree gets thrown at them, breaking the cart. Mabel has a plan and fake surrenders to the gnomes and goads Jeff into kissing her until she pulls out a leaf blower, sucks him into it, and shoots him into the gnome kaiju, defeating the gnome army. Dipper, now more trusting to Mabel, offers up an awkward sibling hug, which Mabel completes. Grunkle Stan, who so far hasn't been shown to be the best uncle, offers up a gift to the twins, being one free item each in the gift shop. Dipper dons his now iconic blue pine tree hat, and Mabel gets her grappling hook. At the end of the episode, we see Grunkle Stan enter a secret room by entering a code into the vending machine. And that is that, the pilot and introduction to Gravity Falls. When this first aired on Disney XD, I was there. I saw the teasers for it, and oh my god, was I excited. And after watching this episode, well, I didn't know just how changed my life would be. This is my favorite cartoon of all time, and for great reason, as we will discuss later on in this video. I also want to bring up that some characters do get changed here. Wendy is far more just relaxed and an uncaring teenager. She doesn't have that edge to her that the classic Wendy Corduroy character has towards, later towards this season. And Seuss, I do believe he gets a bit of a character redesign. I think he loses some of the cheek hairs he has and just keeps the little chin stubble. He's also far more mysterious here, and not really as comedic as he will turn out to be. And oh my god, the ending to that episode, when Grunkle Stan enters the basement through the vending machine, my mind was absolutely blown. But will they continue this hot streak of greatness in episode 2? Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 2, Legend of the Gobblewonker. Grunkle Stan takes the kids fishing where we see our first look at Wendy's family. They are cheering on their dad beating up a fish. We're then introduced to Old Man McGucket. He is yelling about the Gobblewonker, then the town laughs him away, where the twins are excited because earlier in the episode they saw an ad in the newspaper. Whoever sends in the picture of the weirdest thing wins $1,000. Dipper and Mabel plan to photograph the Gobblewonker and split the prize money. Seuss pulls up in his boat, the SS Cool Dude, and the kids leave Stan in his busted down boat, the SS Stan of War. Seuss, Dipper, and Mabel set off to where the Gobblewonker was last spotted, an island named Scuttlebutt. Dipper brings 17 cameras, which Mabel and Seuss then proceed to break a bunch of, and we are left with 11. We cut back to Stan, where he tries to find new company with other fishers, and ends up interrupting a proposal. Back to our main trio, they enter the island and a possum steals their lantern, but they venture on. They spot what they believe is the Gobblewonker, but just some beavers in their home shaped like the Loch Ness Monster. They then start to feel bad about ditching Stan when the real Gobblewonker shows up, chasing the trio out of the water onto the land. The three run to the boat, snapping photos along the way, but Dipper loses his camera. The creature chases them through the water. Dipper yells for a camera, but Sue has been throwing them at the Gobblewonker to try and stop it. Stan boos a family having a lovely moment. The Gobblewonker starts destroying the nearby boats when chasing the trio, but eventually Dipper, Mabel, and Zeus go into a cave behind a waterfall, and the monster chases them, getting stuck. They all take photos when a piece of the cave falls on the creature's head, revealing it to be mechanical. This is when they find out the Gobblewonker is a man-made machine created by Old Man McGucket. He created the machine for attention. His son abandoned him, and the town only sees him as the crazy old man. That's when the twins realize just how much of a mistake they made ditching their Grunkle Stan. The Pine twins and Seuss go back to Grunkle Stan. They have fun fishing, telling stories, and terrorizing the other townsfolk on the family fun day. This was a really fun episode to follow up the pilot. The hot streak does indeed continue. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with creatures that people just did not believe existed. I still to this day, I believe in Bigfoot, and I do think there was a creature such as the Loch Ness Monster, but maybe not as photographed and described. So Kid Me just absolutely loved this, a parody of the Loch Ness Monster. I fell in love with the Gobblewonker. But next up is a fan favorite episode. Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 3, Headhunters. The twins are in the living room watching Duckdetective when Seuss comes in to show them that he found a hidden room behind some loose wallpaper. The room is filled with wax figures of famous people. Grunkle Stan mourns the loss of the melting wax Abe Lincoln, so Mabel sets out to create a new wax figure of Grunkle Stan. When she finishes, Stan reopens the Mystery Shack's wax museum. Stan bribed Stan bribed Wendy and Dipper to work the ticket booth, and then he unveils his new wax statue himself. We also get to see Seuss play his keyboard for the first time. We get to see a lot of recurring townsfolk for the first time of the year, notably Toby and his turkey baster microphone, Free Pizza Guy, and Chandra the reporter. It gets revealed that Stan promised the crowd free pizza, but smoke bombs away with all their money. The crowd destroys the chair setup, and Wendy's dad breaks a wooden pillar. Later, when Stan is watching TV with his wax replica, he goes to the bathroom, but when he returns, his wax look-alike turns out he has been decapitated. Stan calls the police, and we see our first look at the two iconic officers. When they don't help, Dipper and Mabel set out to start a new investigation by themselves. They find footprints that lead to an axe in their house, and they suspect Manly Dan, so they use fake IDs to get into a tough guy bar. Dan proves out to be Wendy's dad, so now we know his name, but he gets proven innocent. Dan proceeds to insult Dipper, but within these insults he finds out that the axe is a left-handed axe. The suspects get dwindled down to one person, so they get the police involved and go to raid their home. They raid Toby's home, and after some news-based puns, he gets proven innocent via very embarrassing footage of Toby getting nasty with a cardboard cutout of Chandra the reporter. Stan holds a funeral for a wax Stan, and in attendance are all the other wax statues, Seuss, Dipper, and Mabel. During the funeral, Dipper finds out the real murderer was one of the wax figures, since the shoe print has a hole in one of them and there is no fingerprints on the axe. When Seuss and Stan leave the room, the wax army comes to life and attacks the kids. We find out that Sherlock Holmes is the one who sliced the wax Stan's head, thinking it was the real Stan. This is when we get the wax figure's backstory and we find out that they are cursed. Mabel throws hot coffee on Genghis Khan, melting him. After a massive battle, it comes down just to Sherlock Holmes and Dipper. They fight out of the room, upstairs, and onto the roof where the sun rises and starts melting Sherlock. Dipper has outsmarted him. Larry King's head is the only wax figure to survive. That was a really fun episode, really no complaints for me. It's just mindless fun, and it's one of the community's favorites for a reason. You can just turn your brain off, watch it, and have such a good time. And you really don't need previous history of Gravity Falls to have fun with it. Next up is one of the most important episodes in Gravity Falls history. Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 4, The Hand That Rocks the Mabel. When I say one of the most important episodes of Gravity Falls history, I truly mean it. This is our introduction to Lil Gideon. Our episode starts with a TV commercial for Gideon's telepathy. Seuss, Mabel, and Dipper want to go, but Stan forbids because Gideon is his mortal enemy. The trio finds a loophole and goes see Gideon's show. Gideon is revealed to be a child, and the show starts. His dad starts playing piano, and Gideon bursts into a song, uses a green gem to make the crowd rise, and starts saying very surface-level mind-reading techniques. Mabel is very impressed, but Dipper is not. Later, at the Mystery Shack, Gideon visits to ask Mabel to visit his home, where Mabel gets a makeover. Next time Gideon and Mabel hang out, Gideon calls Mabel his queen and starts acting kinda creepy and asks Mabel on a date. Gideon comes to pick up Mabel on a big old white horse. They go to a fancy restaurant and he gives an asshat to the staff. Back in the Mystery Shack, Wendy tells Stan about Mabel and Gideon's date, and Stan goes to Gideon's home where his dad welcomes in for some tea. This is where Stan reveals he once went to prison in Colombia. Gideon's dad proposes a working relationship between the Mystery Shack and the telepathy. Gideon uses a rare bird to ask Mabel to the ball. Peer pressured by a crowd of people, Mabel accepts. Mabel only sees Gideon as a friend / little sister, so after the ball, she tries to put him in the friend zone, but Gideon says they are soulmates. Mabel goes to Sweater Town to avoid reality, but Dipper goes to dinner with Gideon to try and end things between him and his sister. Gideon pretends to take things well but plots revenge. Gideon at home shows the true power of the gem, moving objects around and blowing up light bulbs. Gideon bribes Toby to call up the shack and get Dipper to show up at a warehouse to discuss the weirdness of the town. When Dipper arrives, Gideon ambushes him, throwing him into boxes using the gem. Back at home, Wendy and Mabel discuss Mindy's boy troubles. Wendy lists all the boys she's broken up with, ignore Mabel's questions, but Mabel figures out what to do. Cut back to the battle. Gideon uses his powers to throw furniture around, but Dipper dodges and charges Gideon with a baseball bat, but fails. When Gideon has Dipper levitating above the air, about to cut his head off with scissors, Mabel intervenes, rips off the gem, but Gideon tackles Dipper out of the window, and the three plummet off a cliff. Mabel says I'm using the gem powers and shatters it. Gideon leaves, swearing revenge on the Pine family. Gideon ends the working relationship with Mr. Shack, costing Stan a lot of money, so Stan steals a painting. When Gideon is home, he is shown to be playing with a homemade toy replica of the Pines family, and is shown to have journal number 2. Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 5, The Inconveniencing. Stan leaves the shack for the day, leaving Dipper and Mabel alone with Seuss and Wendy. Wendy shows off a ladder that leads to the roof, and Dipper acts confused and like he's never been up there before. He was in there the last episode. But whatever. Wendy has a mini chill spot set up there when she dishes work. This is also the first episode where Dipper's crush on Wendy is shown, and is also the first episode where we meet Wendy's friends. Wendy rides 2 trees down to the ground and gets in her friend's mom's van. Mabel catches on to the crush that Dipper has and teases him about it. Later on, during one of Mabel's random dance parties, one of Dipper's embarrassing moments gets brought up, that being the Lammy dance. He would dress up in a lamb costume and dance around and sing a little song. When it's quitting time, Dipper lies about his and Mabel's age to convince Wendy to let them hang out with her and her friends. Wendy's friends are Lee, Nate, Tambry, Thompson, and Robbie. Thompson will do almost anything to make his friends happy, Nee and later the bros, and Tambry is always on her phone. And of course, Robbie is the emo boy. He's the person who spray painted an explosion on the water tower, which Dipper thought was a muffin. The group heads to a closed convenience store, and it's closed because of a murder. Dipper's the last person to climb over the fence, but has to be dragged down because he's too scared. When they can't get into the front door, Dipper gets called a kid, but to impress Wendy, he goes to the side of the building, climbs up a dumpster, gets under the roof, goes down a pipe, and opens the door from the inside. He earns the nickname Dr. Funtimes. Once inside, the sign on the door changes from open to closed, all on its own. They explore the building. Dipper finds a newspaper dated from 1995, and Wendy turns on the power, and a food fight occurs. After the food fight, they explode some sodas, and Mabel gets high off expired candy that was banned in America. Like literally, she's hallucinating. That candy is straight up acid. Wendy goes Dipper mature for his age, and they bond. Dipper goes to get some ice and sees a ghost in the freezer, but when he closes it and opens it back up again, it disappears. Later, Dipper sees skeletal versions of himself and the others in a window and gets freaked out and goes to call Grunkle Stan. Stan is too invested in soap operas, so he doesn't pick up the phone. When Robbie is using old scratch-off tickets, he ends up finding the outlines of the dead bodies. Dipper tries to convince them not to lay down the body outlines, but it gets called Captain Buzzkill and a 9-year-old, so he does it. This doing so angers the spirits of the convenience store, and Tammy gets trapped in her phone. Thompson gets trapped inside of a knocked-off DDR game I've hilted with in-game arrows. When the game try and leave, Lee gets trapped inside of a box of cereal where the mascot tries to kill him and eat him. Mabel gets possessed and turns Nate into a hot dog. The gravity in the store gets reversed. Everything in the store goes flying around, and Dipper saves Wendy. The two go to hide inside of a cabinet. They figure out the ghost hates teenagers, and Dipper knows what he has to do. He confesses that he and Mabel are not teenagers. The ghosts reveal their true forms. They're 2 spirits of 2 old people who used to run the store. When the ghosts were alive, they hated teenagers, so they banned them from the store. The teenagers retaliate by blasting rap music, this giving the old couple a heart attack, killing them. They agree to free everyone if Dipper does a silly little dance, so he gets given a lamb costume and does the little lammy dance. The group is set free, and the ghost disappears. The teens that were transported to different areas ask what happened after they got teleported, and Wendy covers for Dipper, saying he beat down the ghost with a bat. Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 6, Dipper vs. Manliness. The Pines family are out of the town diner, where we get properly introduced to Lazy Susan. Stan is also too cheap to get the kids real food, so Dipper goes to win free pancakes at the Test Your Manliness machine, but gets the lowest score. He gets put to shame when Manly Dan uses only his pinky, breaking the machine, giving everyone free pancakes. That, on top of the fact that he has no chest hair, he runs away. Stan has a crush on Lazy Susan, and Mabel tries to expose his soft side. Dipper runs into a few problems in town, so runs off into the woods. After he fails to bench press a stick, a horde of mantors run by. One picks up a deer and uses it to scratch his back, and asks Dipper to eat his beef jerky. Dipper and the Mantor talk about Dipper's man issues, and the Mantor brings Dipper to the man cave. After some straight up racism from a Mantor, we cut to Mabel and Stan. Mabel scrapbooks a before picture of Stan and goes to get Seuss and Wendy. Seuss roleplays as Susan, and Stan turns out has 0 riz, no game at all. The Mantors decide not to share their secrets with Dipper, so Dipper says they aren't man enough to train him and calls them chicken. The Mantors redeliberate, choose to train Dipper, and tell him to stick his hand into the pain hole. Dipper screams at the top of his little girly lungs. He is then tasked to kill the multi-bear, because once he does that, he will truly become a man. Back at the diner, Stan successfully gets Susan's number just by being himself. Stan will later go on to regret this decision. Dipper eventually reaches the helm of the multi-bear, and they begin a duel. Dipper outsmarts the bear, dodging all of his attacks and then trapping him. Multi-bear's dying wish is to hear his favorite song one last time. This is where Dipper finds out they both have a love for the Icelandic pop band BABA. They sing their hit song Disco Girl, and Dicker Dipper goes back to the man cave, refusing to kill Multi-Bear. He stands up with the Mantor, saying he doesn't need to kill and be aggro all the time to become a man. Dipper goes to meet his family up at the diner, and he finally discovers that he grew a single chest hair, which Mabel rips off his skin and puts in her scrapbook. Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 7, Double Dipper. The Pines family and Seuss are setting up for a party, and the twins get tasked with copying flyers. Seuss gets very excited about going to the copier store when Stan insists they use the old copying machine in his office. Dipper tests to see if it works by scanning his arm. In doing so, the copy of his arm comes off the paper and starts moving like it's alive. Dipper throws pit cola on it, disintegrating it. Back to the setting of the party. Seuss is the DJ, and Wendy and Mabel are tasked with working the ticket booth, but Dipper insists that he wants to do it to get some alone time with Wendy. Mabel's also hoping to make some new friends at the party. Dipper makes a huge list of things to do when he's alone with Wendy. We come back to the party and it's a success, kinda. Dipper tries to flirt with Wendy but is far too nervous, and then Mabel meets Grenda and Candy. These will be her two friends for the rest of the show. Seuss announces whoever parties the hardest will win a crown. Mabel and her friends get very excited, but in walks a rich girl with mommy and daddy issues. Fan favorite Pacifica Northwest. She is the most popular girl in town, and she starts bullying Candy and Grenda when Mabel challenges her to a party off. Pacifica insults Mabel and the competition begins. Wendy sneaks into the party. When Dipper tries to follow, Stan catches him. Somehow in the next scene, Dipper just sneaks in, but whatever. Dipper goes to the copy machine and makes a clone of himself. The two Dippers decide to name the clone Tyrone, the name Dipper always wanted. The two agreed not to turn on each other, but when Dipper reaches the dance floor, Wendy is with Robbie. They plan to get Robbie out of the shack, so they make a third clone. They decide they need 4 Dippers, but they get a paper jam. Clone number 4 is just made all wrong and can't talk properly. They clone Dipper again. Back at the party, Pacifica sings a killer song, pulling out ahead in the competition. She gets off stage and starts making fun of Grenda's voice. Mabel sings a party song, and then 2 clone Dippers steal Robbie's bike. Robbie chases them and Seuss plays a slow song. Dipper goes to ask Wendy to dance, but runs away too scared. By this point, there are 10 clones, so 11 Dippers in total. They distract Seuss and Stan when Dipper goes to find Wendy, but Wendy is waiting for the bathroom, ruining Dipper's plans. The two actually start to bond. Wendy shows an embarrassing little photo of herself, and Dipper shows off his birthmark, the Big Dipper, hence the nickname. The clone Dippers confront Dipper for going off plan and get into an argument. The clones turn on the OG Dipper. Tyrone thinks he should be the lead clone, but number 10 interjects, upsetting the fucked up clone. Dipper Classic escapes capture, but the clones catch him again. The Clone Wars officially begin with a massive brawl, but Dipper sets off the fire alarm, causing the sprinklers to go off, melting the clones. Which the messed up clone is just all too happy about. He just really wanted to die. Tyrone got away from the water though. Seuss says the competition is almost over. Pacifica and Mabel get into an argument, but Tyrone and Dipper see Wendy and Robbie flirting. It's time for the crowd to vote, and the crowd loves Mabel, but Pacifica gets upset about this and starts glaring at everyone, causing them to change their minds. It is an even vote when Pacifica sees Old Man McGucket and pays him off to cheer for her, just barely winning the competition. She then gets Seuss's name wrong and invites everyone over to a yacht party. Mabel may not have won the competition, but she won 2 friends in the evening. Dipper and Tyrone share a soda on the roof as they debate over if they will even be able to get Wendy, but Tyrone melts because of the drink and tells Dipper, stop being a wimp. Dipper rips up the list and goes to party with Mabel. Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 8, Irrational Treasure. It's Pioneer Day in Gravity Falls. The town's made to look old-timey and all the townsfolk are in character. We also find out it's legal to marry a woodpecker, and a guy did. Homie straight up, he is just fucking the bird. He is just like me for real. We get some more Pacifica lore when she reveals she is the granddaughter of Nathaniel Northwest. Pacifica invites someone on stage to introduce himself, and Mabel runs up to the stage, starting a USA chant. Pacifica insults her clothes, but Mabel insists she can be serious and leaves the stage. That's kind of what this whole episode is about. Stan also gets locked up for not participating, and Gideon gets to throw tomatoes at him. When I was a kid, I was so happy to see Gideon back, but to see he was just in this very, very minor role for a bit, it upset me a little bit, but it is honestly really funny. The Pine twins discuss Pacifica, and we find out Nathaniel Northwest founded Gravity Falls. Dipper pulls out journal number 3 because he remembers reading something about him in it. The author of the journal says Nathaniel is a fraud, and there's proof in an old document, but the author couldn't decipher it. Dipper plans to expose Nathaniel Northwest for a fraud and Mabel tags along to prove she is not silly. The twins are overheard by Sheriff Blubbs, and he calls in the report to a mysterious figure. Deputy Derlin and Blubbs are on a mission to keep the public from digging up this conspiracy. Dipper and Mabel go to the library where Mabel finds the old document and turns it into a hat, unknowingly turning it into a map. Her silliness just got them one step closer to exposing the Northwest family. The map leads to a museum where the next clue is a painting which Mabel finds by sitting upside down. Dipper and Mabel run away from the sheriffs and get to the cemetery. Mabel puts an angel statue finger in her nose, unveiling a hidden pathway. Mabel sets up a booby trap, getting 2 kids shot, but they dodge the darts and get to a treasure room. The treasures are government secrets. Underneath Abe Lincoln's hat was another hand. Ben Franklin was always a woman, and when they find the Northwest cover-up, they find out Nathaniel Northwest was actually a fraud. Nathaniel, in reality, was a normal townsfolk whose job was shoveling up horse shit. The real founder was President Sir Lord Quinton Tremblay III, Esquire. Sheriff Blubbs and Deputy Derlin finally reach Dipper and Mabel, and they show the twins who Quinton Tremblay actually was. The man was America's biggest secret, the 8th president. He won the election when all the other candidates were killed in a landslide. He became America's silliest president. He enacted very silly laws and founded the town when he fell off a cliff. His body was encased in a solid block of peanut brittle, hoping it'll keep him alive forever. The sheriff kidnapped the twins and all other treasures to take to Washington. When Mabel gets hungry and takes a bite out of the peanut brittle, she unwillingly frees Quinton. Get it? Like QuintonReviews, Quinton Tremblay, they share the name. Laugh! Mabel gets a 3 out of the crate they were stuck in with hope for Quinton's 3rd wife, Sandy the woodpecker. What is with people in this town and just marrying woodpeckers? There's gotta be something going on there. Dipper gets the 3 of them onto the roof of the train and escaping the sheriffs. But Deputy figures out Quinton never resigns, so he's technically still the president, so the sheriffs must listen to him. Quinton demands the 2 go on vacation and pretend this never happened. He makes Mabel an official congressman and gives Dipper the president's key. Mabel decides she has nothing to prove, so she doesn't spill the beans to Pacifica. But Dipper, much like me, is very petty and gives Pacifica the document proving her whole life is built on a lie. Quinton gives Dipper the negative $12 bill and rides a horse backwards into the sunset, and Dipper frees Garuncle Stan, and in the episode. The next episode in the show is the most controversial in its history. It's also one of the leading causes in the Mabel hate train. We'll be discussing that soon, by the way. But this episode is also majorly important, introduces some incredible characters and very important characters in the show. I'm talking about Gravity Falls, Season 1, Episode 9, The Time Traveler's Pig. Stan was the cheapest fare to ever exist. Everything is broken or probably injure most people, but Stan has a point. When there's no cops around, everything is legal. And then we see him, Blandin Blandin. Stan was up a rigged dunk tank and Dipper's hanging out with Wendy at the fair when Robbie walks over in tight pants wearing a gallon of body spray. Then the most important character in the show, my main fucking pig, Waddles. Mabel guesses the pig's weight and wins Waddles. Or Wendy walk into that game where, you know, they gotta like knock over some bottles with the ball, but when Dipper throws the ball, he commits an act of fuck up the likes which have never been seen. The ball bounces off the table and hits Wendy just fucking dead in the eye. Big old black eye swelling just immediately. Dipper goes to get some ice but runs into Blandin. They both knock over and the ice spills. But by the time that Dipper actually gets back to Wendy, Robbie's already there, swooped in and asked Wendy out. She says yes, and Dipper is heartbroken. He lays on the skee ball game and talks to Mabel. He wishes he could go back in time to fix his mistake, and then he sees Blandin and blames him for ruining his life. Blandin tries to blend in with the background, but fails, getting our first hint at the future. He blows his cover as a time traveler and reveals his job is to stop timeline anomalies. Dipper and Mabel distract Blandin, and Dipper steals the time traveling machine. Dipper goes back in time and Mabel joins him to relive the happiest moment of her life, winning Waddles. It's time for a do-over. Dipper throws his ball again and knocks over the bottles, but the ball still hits Wendy in the eye, and Robbie swoops in once again. They redo the day again, and the ball still smashes into Wendy's eye. Mabel and Waddles do a photo booth, and they go back in time again. Dipper injures 2 people this time, and then they go back in time again. Dipper figures out how to not to mess up, but he needs Mabel's help. The ball goes through a Rube Goldberg machine of awesomeness, winning Wendy the prize of her dreams, a giant duck panda penguin collage. But when Mabel goes to win Waddles, Pacifica wins him first. Dipper and Wendy go to the funnel cake, but Mabel interrupts. But Dipper's afraid of going back in time will ruin everything, so Mabel rips the time machine out of his hands, but it gets caught on a ride and accidentally sends them both back 150 years. They're in a cart riding on the Oregon Trail, and Mabel starts to spoil the future, giving out calculators, teaching people high fives, just the usual kind of shenanigans. Dipper gets the machine and accidentally sends them back to a prehistoric year, then to the future where he sees Time Baby just destroying the town with his laser vision. They didn't go through a bunch of episodes in the show, even preview a future episode and a main character. They end up back to where they were in the beginning, and they get into a fight. Mabel goes to bang her head off against a pillar to guilt trip Dipper. Dipper travels 1 month in the future and still sees Mabel just banging her head, now covered in vines, looking horrible. Dipper, now guilt-tripped, travels back in time to redo the day. He gives Wendy the black eye, allowing Mabel to re-win Waddles. Blandon reappears to take back the machine, but the time police appear and arrest Blandon. One of the officers shoot the target on the dunk tank, then plunging Stan into the water and the crowd cheers. Mabel sends Waddles off to chase Robbie. He spills boiling water on his pants, shrinking them even more. And in the credit scene, we see Time Baby sending Blandon to fix all the time anomalies. This episode set up a lot in the universe, giving us our first glimpse at the future of the show and a main character. Also introducing to us Blandon, Time Baby, but most importantly, the realest oinker in the fucking room, the best pig of all time, my boy Waddles. Now it's time for our first break in the video. Grab some water, maybe a little snack. It's time to discuss where the main characters are at this point in the show. Now, whom I consider the main cast? The Pines family and employees of the shack, Gideon, Robbie, the Northwests, and Old Man McGucket. Let's start with Mabel Pines and also all the hate surrounding her. Mabel at this point in the show is on good terms with the family and the workers in the Mystery Shack. She has her pet pig Waddles and 2 best friends, Candy and Grenda. She still has a rivalry with Pacifica and is boy crazy. Now time to discuss what people see as the main problem with the Gravity Falls, Mabel. The whole Mabel hate really boils down to is Mabel not learning lessons and being selfish. To quote YouTuber KittyMonk, Mabel will want something, cause big mess, guilt trip Dipper, and then Mabel will say she will get better, but end up doing it again and again. Which I think is a great summary of Mabel's actions. Now of course, Mabel does have great comedic jokes and good moments in the show, but is majorly overshadowed by her selfish actions and unwillingness to learn from her faults. Main counterpoint to this is that she is only 12 years old, so you can't really expect much out of her, which is kind of valid, but you think after what she's gone through so far on the show and what she's dealt with in the town, at this point she'd learn and grow. I actually reached out to some of my friends to ask how they feel about Mabel and the hate that she receives. First up, a good friend of mine and fellow YouTuber, TheZenOne. Mabel is a mixed bag for me personally. There's some episodes where I like her, but there's a bunch of others that I don't like her. She can get a bit annoying at times, and she screws over Dipper many times throughout the show. But dislike towards her doesn't go as deep as some others that don't like her character, but I can honestly say she's my least favorite character of the entire show. Again, like I said, he's a YouTuber. Go check out his channel, link in the description. Next up, an artist friend of mine who is making her own comic book series. Polli. I personally don't hate Mabel. I think she's pretty okay. I feel like her character was necessary to keep things moving along. If the whole show is just about Dipper, the whole show would, as Dipper would, get stuck on the first bump. It's all about the give and take between characters, and we needed Mabel if we wanted Dipper. Not only does she act as some of the comedic relief, she also acts as a pretty realistic portrayal of a sibling. She didn't want to get involved with whatever Dipper was finding in a city that they aren't familiar with, all around people they don't know. But she pulled through when Dipper needed her to be there. It's also worth noting that her being the only one moving things along the show is portrayed in her design. That being that she almost never wears the same outfit. Her sweater is always changing to fit the episode, displaying that she's gonna take things one day at a time, whereas Dipper is still stuck on some other things. Like I said, Polly, a good friend of mine, is an artist working on her own comic book series. Her links to her Tumblr and Instagram will be in the description. Lastly, from my friend Danny. I didn't actually know about the hate she got because I never saw anything really hateable about it. Is she the best written character? Of course not. In my opinion, that's Gideon. But to me, it's a very good showing of a preteen girl prioritizing fun over seriousness, being a great contrast to Dipper and giving the show some of the great comedy through her just being her age. She has amazing chemistry with the rest of the characters with Dipper, Wendy, Grunkle Stan, Seuss, Candy, etc. And when she needs to be serious, it feels natural and not forced like the goofy comedy relief. It doesn't turn all seriousness just for the sake of it, but instead is put in situations where she needs to be serious and is shown to be quite clever herself in those situations. I can't really think of any major flaws that stood out to me. Sometimes I did feel annoyed at her stubbornness when she doesn't get her way, which usually costs Dipper some opportunities to complete his objectives. However, I believe that's how the writers wanted us to feel, so I commend them for being able to make us feel how they want us. So in short, Mabel is a really well written preteen girl character with amazing chemistry with the rest of the cast and can be both naturally funny and serious when the time comes. Danny did not want anything to be linked in the description. Once again, any other creator mentioned in the video will be linked in the description. We will come back to Mabel hate at a later point in this retrospective when we get to the end of season 1. Let's get back to the point of this break, analyzing characters spot in the show. Mabel's twin brother Dipper is also on good terms with his family, maybe a little less close with Stan and Shaq, Candyman, and Seuss. He is still in love with Wendy in a major way, which is like not okay and very odd, but most importantly, he has journal number 3 and still wonders who wrote it. Grunkle Stan is still scamming the town and reading Gold Chains for Old Man magazine. We don't know why he has a secret room in the shack and seemingly doesn't think there's anything weird about the town. I also doubt he will ever call back Susan. Seuss is still an awesome handyman and the best DJ around. Wendy is currently dating Robbie and is pals with Dipper and Mabel. Robbie is dating Wendy and is still a dick to Dipper and Mabel. Old Man McGucket at this point is still the town crazy man, but has been shown to be a very competent builder and brilliant with tech, but he still has no relationship with his son. Womp womp. The Northwest family's been shown the cover-up, but not really much came of it. Pacifica is still the coolest kid in town and a rich asshole. She is seemingly on good terms with her parents. Gideon is plotting revenge on the Pines family and still runs his family with an iron fist. He also has in his possession Journal number 2. Lastly, Waddles is still being the best character in the show. The last thing I want to do before the end of the video is go over where we are in the story. Dipper and Mabel Pines arrive at Gravity Falls, Oregon to spend the summer here with their Grunkle Stan at the Mystery Shack. Dipper finds a mysterious journal and he and his sister start to unravel the mystery of Gravity Falls. They fight off gnomes, find out the town crazy man is actually a genius, fight off living wax figures, Dipper dances to save himself, his sister, and friends from ghosts. Dipper fights off clones of himself, discovers the multi-bear and Mantors, and uncover a hidden government secret, and most recently, time traveled. The story of Gravity Falls is truly so unique and incredible, the story will only expand and get better from here. Well everyone, that wraps up part 1 of the Gravity Falls retrospective. I really hope you enjoyed it. This is my first attempt at making a video of this style, and once again I'd like to say I do not own any of the photos of the show I used here. All rights and images used belong to Disney. Part 2 of this will probably go up around January, February of next year. And if it isn't clear already, I love this show so much. I have such a huge respect for the creators, animators, storyboarders, designers, and all of the crew. Stay tuned to the channel for more videos, click the link in the description, follow me on my socials, join the Discord. I'll see you all next time, stay hydrated and stay toxic.